Story name: Adventures of Jaanvika, Mysteries of the Forgotten Waters by Pallavi Joshi. Short summary of this story book. In Mysteries of the Forgotten Waters, Jaanvika, Pallavi, and friends enter a magical book that takes them to ancient Dwarka. They meet mysterious allies, uncover secrets, face betrayal, and encounter Lord Krishna. With courage and forgiveness, they solve the mystery, mend friendships, and return home, ready for their next adventure. Characters in the story: Jaanvi. Jaanvi is the group's natural leader, curious, courageous, and compassionate. She has a sharp mind and a strong instinct for sensing when things aren't right. Though she faces fear and uncertainty, Jaanvi stays grounded and keeps her friends together, often being the first to act when danger or mystery arises. She balances bravery with empathy, making her the anchor in difficult moments. Pallavi. Pallavi is emotional and nurturing, deeply connected to the feelings of those around her. She wears her heart on her sleeve and isn't afraid to show vulnerability. Her warmth and sensitivity help diffuse tension, and she often serves as the emotional support for the group. Pallavi's compassion fuels her fierce protectiveness of her friends, and she's driven by a strong sense of loyalty. Priyanshi. Priyanshi is thoughtful and intelligent, with a sharp eye for details others might overlook. She processes situations carefully and is often the voice of reason. Though she can be cautious, she's deeply loyal and always willing to stand by her friends. Priyanshi is also open-minded and curious, which helps the group navigate confusing or mystical events. Danyashri. Danyashri is the most enigmatic of the group. Quiet and reserved, she carries a burden that sometimes makes her seem distant or secretive. There's a depth to her that others don't immediately understand. Though she sometimes keeps her distance, her intentions are protective, driven by a desire to shield her friends from harm, even if it means facing loneliness or misunderstanding. Her actions often hint at knowledge and experience beyond the group's awareness. Ifra. Ifra appears mysteriously and feels like a fragile presence caught between worlds. She's vulnerable, lost, and in need of help, but there's a quiet strength beneath her fear. Ifra's arrival brings a sense of urgency and mystery, and she is closely connected to the larger forces at play. Though she struggles with confusion, her role is pivotal to the unfolding story. Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is a divine figure of wisdom and calm. His presence radiates peace and reassurance, guiding the group with gentle insight. He speaks in profound truths that help the girls understand their journey and the challenges ahead. Krishna's grace and blessings serve as a source of hope and strength for everyone involved. Index. Chapter 1: The Assignment That Changed Everything. Chapter 2: The Call of a Book. Chapter 3: Into the Story. Chapter 4: Meeting the Mysterious Friends. Chapter 5: The Weight of Unspoken Words. Chapter 6: The Relic of Broken Trust. Chapter 7: The Call of Adventure. Chapter 8: A Divine Encounter. Chapter 9: Moment with the Lord. Chapter 10: The End of a Wonderful Adventure. Now, let's listen to the chapters one by one. Chapter 1: The Assignment That Changed Everything. Jaanvi Jaanvika and her elder sister, Pallavi, were walking home from school. "I say, you look solemn today, and quite too. What's up?" Pallavi asked, glancing at her younger sister. Jaanvi sighed deeply and said, "The history teacher gave us an assignment to find out about a place." "I really hate history." Pallavi chuckled. "History's not bad. I like it. Just think of it as reading a mysterious book." Jaanvi rolled her eyes. "Okay, but I still hate history. What will I do now? Can you help me?" Pallavi grinned. "Of course. What place is it?" Jaanvi's eyes softened as she said, "Well, the topic isn't bad, but it's real hard work. It's Dwarka." Pallavi's eyes lit up. "Oh wow, hand me everything. I'll do it." The two girls entered their house, and as they walked through the door, Pallavi yelled, "Moom, Jaanvi needs help." Jaanvi mumbled under her breath, "For heaven's sake, shut up. And I'm tired and soaked with sweat." Pallavi smiled, completely amused by her sister's complaints. Mother came up holding a spatula and greeted us warmly. "Darlings, how was school today?" "I think Jaanvi needs help." Jaanvi looked at her with wide eyes, playing innocent. "Huh." Pallavi smirked. "Very innocent, huh? Now tell Mom what you mean." Mom laughed and waved her hand dismissively. "Okay, dear, I don't need any explanation. It's all between you and your sister. Go get refreshed." We nodded and trudged upstairs. After we got refreshed, my sister turned to me and said, "Hey, remember ace detections?" Jaanvi raised an eyebrow. "What will it do? Go and catch criminals?" "Very funny." Pallavi rolled her eyes. "No, you forgot about the portal book, right? You really are a forgetful person." Jaanvi looked confused. "Now you mean we'll start a search to find the book? And anyways, what does this have to do with my project?" Pallavi grinned. "We can go to Dwarka in the book, and find loads of information that no computer can provide." Jaanvi was still skeptical. "And how exactly will you find it?" Pallavi leaned in, whispering conspiratorially. "Dear, I have no intention of finding it. It'll come on its own." Jaanvi sighed. "Let's not talk about this anymore. Mom will be hounding us in a minute to go to sleep." Pallavi nodded. She continued, and we both got ready to head to bed, knowing our curious minds would have trouble resting. Chapter 2: The Call of a Book. "Good evening, girls. Wake up," Mother called as she roused us from our slumber. Jaanvi groaned while I smiled, knowing that Mother had disturbed her dreams. Jaanvi mumbled, "5 more minutes," but Mother frowned disapprovingly. I looked at Mother with innocent eyes and asked, "Mommy, can I spank her with my brush?" Before Mother could reply, Jaanvi screamed and sprang out of bed. Mother laughed. "Ha ha, dear, your dad is coming home early from the office today." The girls were thrilled at the news. Mother left the room, and Jaanvi said, "Come on, let's get to work on," but Pallavi interrupted, saying she knew exactly what to do and to leave it up to her. Jaanvi nodded, stepping forward. "Very well," Jaanvi said, looking back at me. "I hope you're right." She walked ahead, her gaze on me, but as she did, she accidentally banged her head on the wall. Pallavi couldn't help but laugh, though she quickly apologized, saying, "I know it's rude to laugh, but I just can't help it." "Ha ha ha." Jaanvi rubbed her head and smiled, though Pallavi's expression grew serious. "Hey, what's that hole in the wall?" she asked. Jaanvi looked at the spot where she had hit her head and whispered, I don't know." Then silenced. "Do you think this has the answers we're looking for?" Jaanvi asked. Pallavi stood up, reaching out to touch the gap. It felt soft. Jaanvi, curious, punched it, and to their surprise, the wall tore open. Inside, they found a book. Their hearts leapt with excitement. Jaanvi held the book with trembling hands and read aloud, "Mysteries of the Forgotten Waters." Pallavi, a little confused, asked, "Isn't this like your earlier adventure without me, The Adventures of the Forgotten Forest?" Jaanvi nodded. "It might have some similarities," she said. "Let's open it. Time seems to stop when we're in one of these adventures." Pallavi smiled. "But this one is about water, and you don't even know how to swim." Jaanvi shrugged. "You always have something to worry about." Then, she opened the book. Everything inside was black. Chapter 3: Into the Story. We were sitting on a bench in an unfamiliar place, surrounded by the hustle and bustle of people going about their daily lives. They seemed like people from ancient times, women draped in traditional saris, men in kurta pajamas, their attire giving off a timeless, nostalgic air. The atmosphere felt like something out of a storybook, as if we had somehow slipped into a different era. Jaanvi turned to look at her sister, noticing her outfit. She was wearing a kurti. She couldn't resist a playful comment and burst out laughing. "Miss Kurti, ha 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 ha." Pallavi shot back at me, her tone cool and composed. "Oh yes, Miss Junior. Kurti, look at yourself, so cute," she remarked with a smirk. Her response made Jaanvi scowl, but Jaanvi couldn't help but laugh at her sharp retort. With that, we stood up, ready to explore this strange new world. Pallavi, always the curious one, walked toward a woman carrying bundles of fresh fruits on her head. "What is this place?" Pallavi asked, her voice filled with wonder as she looked around at the unfamiliar surroundings. The woman smiled warmly, her face lined with wisdom and kindness. "Gujarat," she said, speaking in Hindi. "Are you visitors?" Jaanvi quickly replied in Hindi as well, her voice calm yet filled with curiosity. "Yes, we are visitors. But, where exactly are we?" The woman's smile remained soft, but there was something almost nostalgic in her eyes. "This is Dwarka, dear ones. If you're travelers, you are welcome to come with me. I can offer you shelter," she offered, her kindness shining through. We walked alongside her, our steps light but filled with an increasing sense of wonder. The air around us felt different, charged with the weight of history and the mysteries of a time long past. As we walked, Pallavi leaned in and whispered to Jaanvi, her voice barely audible. "She looks so familiar. I can't quite place her. Have we met her before?" Jaanvi shushed her, her expression serious now. "Let's focus on where we are, not on who she might be," she replied, her gaze fixed ahead. We continued walking in silence until we finally arrived at the woman's home. It was unlike anything we had ever seen, more like a grand palace than a humble abode. The architecture was magnificent, with intricate carvings and large, open spaces that hinted at the wealth and history that lay within. The woman led us inside and, with a sweep of her hand, motioned for us to follow her. "Dearest ones, first, you must meet the king," she said, her voice filled with reverence. As we followed her into the heart of the palace, Jaanvi, ever curious, couldn't help but ask, "Is Lord Krishna here?" The woman's expression shifted, her face falling into a deep, sorrowful look. "Ah, dear, Lord Krishna left us long ago," she began softly. "But there has been a war. The Mahabharata. It was devastating, taking countless lives. Lord Krishna, he was one of them. He killed the tyrant Kansa." Her voice was happy but she grew sorrowful. She said, "After the war, he retreated into a forest to meditate, seeking peace. He is still there, that is all we know for now." We were struck silent. The words hung heavily in the air, and for a moment, we could hardly process what we had just heard. The great Lord Krishna, who had shaped the destiny of so many, whose stories we had heard all our lives, was gone from here. It felt as though a piece of the world had slipped away from us. Still in shock, we found ourselves standing before a majestic figure. There, in front of us, was the king, none other than Lord Ugrasen, Krishna's maternal grandfather. His presence was regal, commanding respect without a word being spoken. His eyes held the same deep wisdom that had been passed down through generations. The air seemed to pulse with the weight of history, and we realized we were standing in the presence of someone who had been a part of Krishna's life. It was as if the very fabric of time had woven us into this moment, and we were now part of a story that had been unfolding for centuries. Chapter 4: Meeting the Mysterious Friends. After a brief conversation with Lord Ugrasen, they set off toward their destination. The air around them was thick with excitement and mystery as they journeyed through the winding paths. The sisters, curious about their surroundings, chatted away. "Well, a traveler visited this place yesterday," the women mentioned. "You can talk to her." They walked closer and spotted a beautiful girl standing under the shade of a tree, her eyes sparkling with a musical quality, like they held secrets in their depths. As they approached, Jaanvika smiled warmly. "Hey, I'm Jaanvika, and this is my sister Pallavi. We heard you're a traveler too." The girl, who had a serene yet adventurous air about her, returned the smile. "Hey, nice to meet you both. I'm Priyanshi," she said with a slight bow of her head. "I've brought my friend along with me. Well, we didn't exactly plan to come here. We kind of entered through a book." Pallavi's eyes widened. "Wow, we came here the same way. Book travelers," she exclaimed, her excitement reflecting in her voice. Just as they were beginning to share their stories, another figure appeared. A girl with dark, intense eyes that seemed to hold a storm of emotions walked over, giving them a cheeky grin that radiated confidence. "Hey," she said, her tone playful yet mysterious. "I'm Danyashri." Before anyone could respond, Pallavi collapsed, fainting in an unexpected swoon. The others stared in shock. Jaanvika rushed to her sister's side, holding her up with a concerned expression. "Pallavi, Pallavi, wake up." Priyanshi and Danyashri exchanged glances, both looking a bit surprised by Pallavi's reaction. Priyanshi stepped closer, her voice soft. "What happened to her?" Jaanvika, still trying to keep her sister conscious, muttered, "I don't know, she seemed fine just a moment ago." She knelt beside Pallavi, her fingers brushing lightly over her temples. There was a brief moment of quiet, as if the world around them had paused. Jaanvika watched intently, her heart racing. After a few moments, Pallavi's eyes fluttered open, still hazy but beginning to regain her senses. What happened? She murmured weakly. Jaanvika smiled, relieved. You fainted. You scared me. Pallavi blinked, her gaze shifting between the three girls before locking onto Danyashri. You're different, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Danyashri smirked, her eyes gleaming with an unreadable emotion. I suppose you could say that. Chapter 5 The Weight of Unspoken Words. Everyone stood there in a strange, heavy silence. Danyashri, sensing the tension, broke it with a casual tone. Well, anyway, you can call me Danya, okay? She said, her voice light but her eyes betraying something deeper. The sisters exchanged glances and nodded, though Jaanvi couldn't shake off the strange feeling that had settled in the pit of her stomach. As Danya walked away, her steps quick and purposeful, the sisters' gazes lingered on her retreating figure. There was something about her, something that didn't quite add up. Jaanvi looked over at Priyanshi, her mind racing. Priyanshi's once radiant eyes, which had seemed full of joy and adventure, now seemed distant, clouded by an unspoken worry. Her usual spark was dimmed, replaced by a subtle, almost imperceptible tension. Pallavi noticed it too, and after a few moments of quiet observation, she couldn't hold back any longer. She turned to Priyanshi, her voice softer than usual, laced with concern. Are you okay? She asked, her words tentative, as if she were afraid to uncover something she wasn't prepared to understand. Priyanshi flinched slightly, as though startled by the question, but quickly masked it with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Yeah, I'm fine, she said, though her voice was shaky, and there was a hesitation in her movements, a momentary pause before she crossed her arms over her chest, as if to protect herself from something invisible. Jaanvi, always more intuitive, leaned in, her tone more insistent. No, you're not fine. We've been traveling together long enough to know when something's off. You're stressed. Don't try to deny it. Pallavi nodded in agreement, her voice gentle but firm. Yeah, you've been acting different ever since Danya came into the picture. What happened? You can't just brush it off. The air around them seemed to still, as if the very world was waiting for Priyanshi to speak. She stood there for a moment, her lips pressed together in a thin line, eyes distant. The silence grew heavier with each passing second. Finally, with a long, drawn-out sigh, Priyanshi lowered her gaze to the ground. Her voice, when it came, was barely a whisper. It's complicated, she murmured, her eyes flickering up to meet theirs, though the trust in her gaze was hesitant, cautious. Let's just say, I didn't expect to find myself in this situation. And Danya, she's not someone I trust easily. Pallavi raised an eyebrow, sensing there was more to the story. What do you mean? What's going on with her? Priyanshi took a deep breath, clearly struggling with the weight of her words. There's more to her than she lets on. Much more. And she has a past that's tied to this place. To Dwarka. I don't know all the details yet, but I can feel it. Something's off. Her voice trailed off. Jaanvi exchanged a worried look with Pallavi. Something was indeed very wrong, and Priyanshi knew more than she was letting on. The mystery surrounding Danyashri, and now Priyanshi herself, was deepening. The sisters weren't sure what to believe anymore, but one thing was certain, their journey had just taken a turn into unknown, dangerous territory. Chapter 6 The Relic of Broken Trust. Priyanshi's sob had come out of nowhere, raw and jagged, the kind that shatters any remaining pretense of composure. Pallavi had instinctively reached out, her voice soft but insistent, hey, it's fine. But the words barely left her mouth before Priyanshi snapped, fury and pain flooding her voice. No, you don't know anything. It's not fine. Not fine at all. The sisters recoiled, the sudden intensity of Priyanshi's outburst striking them hard. Jaanvi, her heart heavy with concern, stepped forward, her voice gentle, though tinged with a quiet urgency. Can you tell us what happened? The whole story, between you and Danya. Priyanshi hesitated, her gaze dropping to the ground, a mixture of confusion and reluctance in her eyes. She took a slow, deliberate breath. Okay, listen, this is going to sound crazy, but it's the truth. Once, a long time ago, Danya and I were inseparable. Best friends, closer than anyone could imagine. We were both so eager to uncover the mysteries of Dwarka, to solve the ancient puzzles the city held. But then, she faltered for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Then one day, I found this book. I don't even remember the title anymore. But when I opened it, it wasn't like any book I had ever seen before. Danya and we were transported into the book. We were there, inside the story. And the worst part, no one could see us. It was like we were invisible to the people in the story. She paused, her throat tightening as the memories flooded back. We had to fix the story, play our parts in it. If we didn't, we'd be trapped there forever, lost in the pages. And then, her voice quivered, the bitterness and heartbreak evident in every word. Our friendship fell apart. We couldn't hold onto it anymore. Before anyone could speak, Danyashri's voice sliced through the silence, calm and cold. It's not about Dwarka, she said, her eyes piercing through the tension, her tone laced with quiet anger. It's about trust. All eyes shifted to Danyashri, the weight of her words sinking in. The air seemed to thicken, the temperature dropping as if the very essence of the moment had shifted. Priyanshi's fists clenched at her sides, but she stood firm, her jaw set. You never told them, did you? Danyashri's voice was low, almost bitter, as she turned her gaze to Priyanshi. You kept it hidden from them. You kept it hidden from everyone, even when I tried to explain. The sisters stood frozen, their eyes wide in shock as they absorbed the rawness of the situation. They had known there was tension between the two, but the depth of the rift, the betrayal that seemed to have unfolded, this was something else entirely. Danyashri's voice lowered to a near whisper as she continued, her gaze drifting to Jaanvi and Pallavi. It's too late for secrets now. The words hung heavily in the air, their meaning not lost on anyone. What had happened between them? What had caused the fracture so deep that even time could not heal it? Finally, Danyashri spoke again, her words laced with a regret that seemed to reverberate in the stillness. We used to be inseparable. Best friends, united by our shared obsession with uncovering the mysteries of Dwarka. We were unstoppable, together. But as we dug deeper, as we uncovered more and more secrets, something inside me changed. I found something powerful, hidden deep within the city's ancient ruins. An artifact, a golden relic. It wasn't just a relic. It contained the stories of Krishna, sacred and untold. It held power, a power that could change everything. The sisters, barely breathing, were captivated by the weight of her revelation. I made a choice, Danyashri continued, her voice tinged with the heaviness of remorse. A choice that Priyanshi couldn't understand. I kept the artifact to myself. If I had it, if I could unlock its secrets, I could change the course of everything. I still can't tell you, Priyanshi's eyes flashed with pain. You kept it from me, she whispered, her voice shaky but firm. You didn't trust me. You didn't trust us. Danyashri met her gaze, her eyes softening, though the regret was still there. Their minds raced with a million questions, none of which had answers yet. The mystery of the artifact, the hidden power it held, and the fractured bond between Priyanshi and Danyashri, these were only the surface of something far deeper. Finally, Jaanvi's voice broke through the stillness, her words filled with both curiosity and trepidation. So, this artifact, it's tied to Krishna's stories. Is that the key? Is it the key to everything we've been searching for in Dwarka? Danyashri nodded slowly, her gaze distant, as though she could still feel the weight of the artifact in her hands. It's not just a key, Jaanvi. It's a doorway, but we may have opened it too soon. The sisters exchanged uneasy glances, the depth of the danger dawning on them. What had they stumbled into? And could they fix the broken threads of trust before it was too late? Chapter 7. The Call of Adventure. Later that night, when the house was draped in the stillness of sleep, Jaanvi stirred awake. It wasn't the usual sounds that had pulled her from her dreams, but something odd, a rustling sound, almost imperceptible but persistent. Her heart fluttered as she listened closely. She strained her ears, and there it was again, the faint swish of fabric, the scraping of something across the floor. With slow, measured breaths, she rose from the bed. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of the sound, but there was no rational explanation for it. Every part of her urged her to ignore it, to roll over and go back to sleep, but something felt off, unnervingly so. Quietly, she tiptoed toward the door of her room, cracking it open just enough to peer into the dim hallway. Her heart leapt into her throat as she caught sight of a shadow moving against the wall. It was a figure, small and ghostly in the darkness, and it wasn't supposed to be there. With a surge of adrenaline, Jaanvi took a step forward, cautious, almost hesitant, her bare feet brushing the cool floor. The shadow didn't move or acknowledge her approach, but as she inched closer, the faint outline of a child appeared. A young girl, no older than 10 or 11, stood in the middle of the hallway, her head slightly tilted, eyes wide and hollow, as if lost in some deep confusion. "Hey," Jaanvi called out softly, her voice trembling slightly as she extended her hand toward the girl. "Are you okay?" The girl flinched, startled by the sound of her voice, but then she turned slowly. Her eyes locked onto Jaanvi's, filled with an unsettling mixture of fear and desperation. She opened her mouth, but the words came out in a stammer. "Hi, please help me, I don't know where I am." Jaanvi's mind raced, her instinct screaming at her to be cautious, to be wary. This situation didn't make sense. How did this child end up here? Why was she so lost in the middle of the night? But something in the girl's trembling voice kept Jaanvi from retreating. She hesitated before speaking again, trying to keep her voice calm and soothing despite the growing unease gnawing at her. "Okay, first, tell me your name," Jaanvi said, stepping closer but keeping a safe distance. The girl swallowed hard, her gaze darting around as if she feared someone might appear from the shadows. I'm Ifra," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I don't remember how I got here. Everything's blurry. I just woke up, and I was standing here." Jaanvi's heart skipped a beat. This was no ordinary occurrence. The girl seemed so weird, so out of place, as though she wasn't even supposed to be in this house, let alone in the middle of the night. Jaanvi fought the urge to panic, trying to maintain control. There had to be a logical explanation for this. Perhaps a lost child from a neighboring house. A nightmare. Or something far more unsettling. "All right, Ifra," Jaanvi said, her voice steady but laced with caution, "let's get you some water, okay? You need to calm down, and we'll figure this out together." Ifra nodded weakly, her hands trembling as Jaanvi gently guided her toward the kitchen. As Jaanvi turned to reach for a glass, she caught a glimpse of Ifra in the dim light. The girl wasn't looking at her. Instead, her eyes were fixed on the window across the room, staring out into the blackness of the night with a look that sent a shiver up Jaanvi's spine. Suddenly, Ifra's voice broke the silence, a thin whisper filled with dread. "Did you hear it? The voices, they're calling me." Jaanvi froze, the glass halfway to her lips. Her heart skipped as she glanced back at the girl, who was now trembling in place, her small body rigid with fear. "Hear what?" Jaanvi asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "The whispers, they're so soft at first, but then they get louder. They say my name, they want me to come to them." Ifra's voice cracked, her eyes wide with an unsettling panic. "What whispers?" Jaanvi's voice trembled as she stepped closer. She scanned the room, but there was nothing. Ifra's eyes flickered toward the door as if something were moving just beyond the threshold, something unseen but palpably close. "They're here. I can feel them. Please, I need to leave." Before Jaanvi could react, Ifra bolted toward the door. Panic surged in Jaanvi's chest as she rushed to stop her, but it was too late. The girl had already opened the door and stepped out into the dark hallway. "Wait," Jaanvi called out, her voice strained with fear. But Ifra didn't stop. She was moving toward the stairs, her footsteps swift and determined, as though she knew exactly where she was going. Jaanvi hesitated only for a moment before following. She had no choice. Something deep within her told her that Ifra's fear was more than just the result of a nightmare, it was real. And whatever it wasn't over. As she chased after Ifra into the hallway, Jaanvi could feel it, something ancient, something lurking just beyond the edges of the house. And with each passing second, the whispers grew louder. Jaanvi shook Pallavi, Priyanshi and Danya. They woke up. Jaanvi narrated the event. Everyone held their breath. Pallavi and Priyanshi whispered, "What? How eerie." Danya nodded. Pallavi noticed that Danya looked guilty once again. She stammered, I am going to the toilet." She went off. The rest girls stood there. How weird. Danya was behaving very weird. And the toilet was on the left side, not on the right. Chapter 8: A Divine Encounter. Then the three girls followed Danya. As they walked, the tension between them grew, each girl afraid to voice the question swirling in their minds. And then, as if on cue, they saw her. Danya was standing alone in the middle of the darkened corridor ahead, her figure faintly illuminated by the dim light of an old lamp. But it wasn't her appearance that drew the girls in, it was the way she was holding something, clutched tightly in her hands, a manuscript. The edges of the paper were yellowed and fragile, as if it had been untouched for centuries. Its weight was almost palpable, as if the pages themselves carried a heavy secret. Her gaze was fixed ahead, her expression distant, and for a moment, she didn't acknowledge the others approaching. The air seemed to grow colder, the shadows creeping closer to the walls, tightening around them. Danya, Priyanshi called softly, her voice trembling. What is that? Where did you find it? Danya turned slowly, the manuscript still tightly held in her hands. Her eyes were different now, no longer the wide-eyed, hesitant girl they once knew. There was something in them, something darker. She blinked, as though coming back to herself, but the air around her remained charged. I didn't find it, Danya replied in a low, almost whispering tone. It was waiting for me. Waiting for all of us. Do you know what this is? Danya asked, her voice now taking on a more cryptic tone. This is the key. The key to understanding everything, the whispers, the shadows, the things we've been seeing. It's all written here, in the pages, in the truth that no one was ever meant to know. With that, she lifted the manuscript, and the air around them seemed to shift, as though the very fabric of reality was being twisted. The words on the pages began to glow faintly, the symbols shimmering and shifting like they were alive. The whispers started again, louder this time, closer. The walls of the corridor seemed to close in, and the girls could feel the floor beneath them tremble. The words on the manuscript seemed to call out, their meaning just out of reach, yet strangely familiar. I'm sorry, Danya whispered, almost to herself. I didn't know it would come to this. But we have no choice now. We must finish what was started. The ritual, it's already begun. On the orders of Danya everyone sat down meditating and whispering Krishna, Krishna. Then, everyone fainted. When they awoke, they found themselves lying beneath a canopy of tall, ancient trees, birdsong echoing softly through the forest. Confused and dazed, they sat up, only to be struck by the serene sight before them. In a small clearing stood Lord Krishna, deep in meditation. His skin shimmered with a divine glow, and his flute lay gently by his side. One foot rested slightly turned, exposed. Pallavi's eyes widened. He'll get an arrow on that foot, by a hunter. She exclaimed, her voice trembling. Tears welled up as she stared at the divine figure. "O Krishna," she whispered, overcome with emotion. Suddenly, an arrow shot out from nowhere, swift, silent, fatal. Pallavi and Jaanvi screamed together, no. But the arrow halted mid-air, suspended as if time itself had bowed in reverence. A hush fell over the forest. Lord Krishna opened his eyes. A soft smile spread across his face. He rose gracefully, radiating peace, and began walking toward them. Each step was a note of divinity. Pallavi clutched her chest, breathless. He's real, he's coming here, she gasped, unable to contain her awe. Without another word, she rushed forward and fell to his feet, tears streaming down her cheeks. Namaste, she whispered, overwhelmed. Krishna looked down at her kindly and spoke in Sanskrit, his voice like music from another world. I know Sanskrit, Priyanshi said. He spoke. Sarvam yadva diva anena yatha dharmam vartate, tadartham jivam dharmam svadharmena sadhaye. Priyanshi smiled. She said, it means whatever is in accordance with dharma and is pleasing to the divine, live by it. Lead your life in alignment with righteousness, for that is the true path to follow. Everything has a purpose in this world, and through living according to your dharma, you will find ultimate peace. Danyashri bowed. Chapter 9 Moment with the Lord. We were walking together, chatting non-stop, when Krishna suddenly stopped and said, well, let's sit under that tree. Pallavi, Priyanshi, and Jaanvi followed him without question, while Danyashri hesitated. Her steps faltered, and in an instant, she turned and ran away. Jaanvi noticed it immediately and, as Pallavi was about to call out to Danyashri, she swiftly motioned for her to remain quiet. They settled beneath the shade of the tree, the cool breeze rustling through the leaves. But the peaceful setting couldn't distract Janvi's mind from the tension that hung in the air. As they settled down, Janvi's curiosity finally broke through. She turned to Krishna. "Shri Krishna," she asked, her voice low, "there's something strange about Danyashri. Don't you think so? It's as if there's a story we don't know about her." The other two girls nodded in agreement, their expressions reflecting their concern. Krishna's eyes glinted with understanding, and he gave a small smile. "I was hoping one of you would ask me this," he said softly. "Yes, I know about Danyashri's past. It's not just her present you're seeing. When she first entered the book, she saw everything as familiar. Her memories of past lives came flooding back to her. This place, these events, they were not new to her. They were fragments of a life that had already unfolded." He paused for a moment, gauging their reactions. When she entered the book, she recognized something, the power of the manuscript. And it didn't take long for her to realize that she could use magic to bring Priyanshi with her. She meditated, reached her home in spirit, and when she arrived, she realized something that set her on this path. Priyanshi's eyes widened in realization. "Wait, that's why Danyashri wasn't as surprised when we all entered the book together, right?" She already knew. Krishna smiled again, as though pleased with her quick comprehension. Exactly. Danyashri knew. She wasn't just a bystander, she was here before, in another life. And she understood more than we could. She was cautious, always weighing the consequences of her actions. After she brought Priyanshi into this world, she needed someone to guide her, someone she could trust with the truth. "That's when I sent Ifra." Janvi furrowed her brows. "Ifra, the one I met." Krishna's tone shifted, more sober now. "Yes, Ifra is a distant friend of Danyashri. She was someone Danyashri trusted with her secrets. When Danyashri couldn't speak to me directly, she sent Ifra as a messenger. It was Ifra who told Danyashri that the manuscript had to be controlled, safeguarded, and eventually handed back to me. But what you all didn't know was this: Danyashri believed you, Priyanshi. She trusted you. She just couldn't share the truth with you, not without understanding the full extent of its impact." Priyanshi blinked, her expression clouded. "But then, why did she seem to distance herself from me? Was it because I wasn't trusted?" Krishna shook his head, his gaze softening. "No, Priyanshi. Danyashri did believe you. I didn't want her to share this secret with anyone because it was too dangerous. It had to remain hidden for the time being. And so, she kept it to herself, burdened by the knowledge that the truth could harm everyone." There was a long pause. Danyashri's absence felt more profound now, the silence between them growing heavy. Janvi looked at Krishna, confusion and compassion warring in her expression. "But, Krishna, you said a voice haunts her. Is this part of the price she has to pay for keeping the truth hidden? Is it punishment for her actions?" Krishna's expression grew more thoughtful. "Yes. That voice, it's not just the consequence of her secret. It's something deeper. It's a reminder. A reminder that Danyashri's soul is bound to the manuscript in ways that none of you could possibly comprehend. She carries a deep guilt for not seeking help sooner. The voice that haunts her is the manifestation of that guilt, the echo of a choice made long ago, a choice to protect, even when that protection meant solitude." Pallavi, who had been silent for some time, finally spoke in a voice as soft as the rustling leaves above. "But, she was just trying to protect us, wasn't she? If she'd told us the truth, it might have been too much to bear. If she hadn't, then there would have been no way for us to know what we were walking into." Krishna gave a slow nod, his eyes filled with a mix of sorrow and wisdom. "Exactly, Pallavi. Danyashri was trying to safeguard everyone, but in doing so, she became isolated in her own fear and doubt. Forgiveness is not easy, especially when we feel betrayed. But there is more to her than her secrets. There is love, fear, and a desperate desire to protect those she cares for." Pallavi turned her gaze toward the path where Danyashri had run, her expression softening. "So, what do we do now? Do we forgive her? Will it make a difference?" Krishna's eyes shifted to the horizon, as if seeing a far-off future no one else could. Forgiveness, true forgiveness, is not a simple act. It is the beginning of healing. Not just for Danyashri, but for all of you. Only when you forgive, when you understand the burden she carries, can you move forward. But you must do it together, as a group. The path ahead is not only about what is revealed but about the choices you make now. Forgiveness is not just for her, it's for all of you. It's a gift. The weight of his words settled over them, like a heavy cloud ready to burst into rain. Pallavi, her voice still quiet but certain, spoke again. We should forgive her then. It's the only way we can all move forward. And as they sat in silence, the once unspoken truths now hovering between them, Krishna's gaze softened. Yes, forgiveness is the key. And with that, you will begin to heal, not just as individuals but as a collective. Your paths will cross in ways you cannot yet foresee. But one thing is certain, you are no longer bound by the past. As Dhanashri entered, she was greeted by a volley of apologies. Chapter 10 The End of a Wonderful Adventure. It's fine, she said, throwing a grateful look at Lord Krishna. I'm just glad it's over. Priyanshi swallowed her pride, her voice barely a whisper as she spoke. I'm sorry. I was such a beast to you. Really, I think. Dhanashri cut her off with a quick wave of her hand. Oh, shut up. They spent a little more time in each other's company, savoring the calm after the storm. Then, Dhanashri turned to Lord Krishna once more. Lord Krishna, we would really like to move on now, not that I want to leave you. He smiled gently, his voice a soft blessing. May my blessings always be with you. At his words, a portal appeared before them, glowing with a serene light. Without hesitation, they stepped through it, only to find themselves back where they had started. Dhanashri breathed a sigh of relief, grateful for the part she had played in ending the great row that had plagued them. Meditating nearby, Jaanvi suddenly screamed, "The big row is over." Her voice echoed through the room, and they all laughed, the tension dissolving with the sound of their joy. Dhanashri smirked. Who knew we'd survive this? But before anyone could respond, a new portal opened abruptly, pulling them in. Pallavi and Jaanvi, who had been standing by the wall, turned in surprise. Pallavi punched the solid surface. Ow, she muttered, rubbing her hand. The wall had become impossibly hard, as though it had transformed in the blink of an eye. Jaanvi leaned in, whispering with a mischievous grin, instant karma. Then the doorbell rang, both sisters screamed, Daddy. Without wasting a second, they raced out of the room, eager to see what new adventure awaited them next. The unknown beckoned, as it always did, and the thrill of it made their hearts race. And then one day,